There are people in your life right now who are terrified, not of failure, not of loss in the worldly sense, not of anything you could see or name or point to. They are terrified of you, of what you make them feel, of how much space you have taken up inside their heart without either of you planning it, of how different the world would look if one day you were no longer in it. And the cruelest part of this fear is that it wears the disguise of indifference. They go quiet. They pull back. They create distance that feels like coldness but is actually the opposite of coldness. It is someone running from warmth, because warmth is the one thing they were never taught how to hold without dropping. You have felt this. You have sat with someone's silence and turned it over in your hands 100 times trying to understand what it meant. You have replayed conversations looking for the moment things changed. You have asked yourself what you did, what you said, what you became that made someone who was once close decide to disappear. But what if the answer to all of that is nothing? What if you did nothing wrong? What if the very thing that pushed them away was not a flaw in you but the depth of what they feel for you? What if the silence is not rejection, but a person standing at the edge of something they have never felt before, looking down and being too afraid to step forward? Today we are going to go into that silence together. We are going to walk through the hidden rooms of the fearful heart. We are going to look at what Islam says about attachment, about fear, about what Allah does with two hearts that are written for each other but have not yet found the courage to admit it. And by the time we reach the end of this, something inside you is going to be different. Not because I have all the answers, but because the truth, when it is spoken clearly, has a way of settling into the chest like something that was always there, waiting to be named. So stay with me. The heart runs furthest from what it wants most. This is the beginning of everything. This is the root beneath all the confusion, all the mixed signals, all the distance that does not make sense. The human heart, in its most unguarded and honest state, is not rational. It does not move in straight lines. It does not always walk toward what it loves and away from what it fears. Sometimes, and this is the truth that most people never speak out loud, the heart runs fastest and furthest from the very thing it wants most. Think about what it means to want something genuinely, not casually, not in the way you want something comfortable or convenient, but to want someone the way the thirsty want water, to feel the pull of another person so deeply that their absence is a physical thing, a weight you carry, a space that does not fill. That level of wanting is terrifying because it means you need them. And needing someone is perhaps the most vulnerable position a human being can occupy. It means they have power over you, not power they sought or were given, but power that exists simply because of how much they matter. It means that their departure would cost you something real, something you could not easily replace or recover from. And for a person who has built their entire emotional life around never being in that position, around never needing anyone so much that their absence could devastate, the moment they realize they have arrived there, the moment they recognize that you have gotten through every wall they built, that is the moment the running begins. Not running towards something else, running away from the feeling itself. They do not always understand why they are doing it. They tell themselves they are busy, that the timing is wrong, that they are simply not ready. They construct reasonable explanations for what is actually an unreasonable fear. They put language and logic over something that is neither logical nor linguistic. It is just fear. Pure, primal, heart-level fear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the heart as the most sensitive organ in the human being. In the Quran, He speaks of the heart more than almost any other part of the self, because the heart is where truth lives. It is where real feeling resides, and it is where the greatest battles of the human experience are fought. Not on battlefields, not in public, but in the quiet interior of the chest, where no one else can see. When someone runs from you, when they pull away at precisely the moment the connection becomes real, remember this lesson. The heart runs furthest from what it wants most. Not because it does not want it, but because it wants it so much that the possibility of losing it has become unbearable. And a heart that is running is not a heart that is empty. It is a heart that is full and frightened and has not yet learned that the only way through fear is not away from it, but directly into the hands of the one who holds all hearts together. Their silence is not emptiness. It is a fear too heavy to speak. We have been taught, most of us, to read silence as absence, to interpret quiet as a sign that nothing is there, that if someone does not speak their feeling, the feeling does not exist. But silence has many textures, and the silence of someone who is afraid is one of the heaviest things a human heart can produce. There is the silence of someone who has nothing to say, and then there is the silence of someone who has so much to say that none of it can find its way out. The silence of someone who has rehearsed the words 1,000 times in the privacy of their own mind and lost the courage to speak them every single time. The silence of someone who opens their mouth and then closes it because the risk feels too large and the vulnerability feels too exposed, and the possibility of getting it wrong feels more catastrophic than saying nothing at all. That second silence is not emptiness. It is fullness that has no exit. Think about the last time you felt something so large you could not speak it. The last time emotion was so present in your chest that words felt inadequate, that anything you said would only diminish what you actually felt. That paralysis, that speechlessness in the face of deep feeling, is not weakness. It is the heart encountering something bigger than its language. Now imagine living in that state, not for a moment, but for months. Imagine carrying that weight around someone whose presence makes it heavier every time, someone whose eyes make it harder to breathe, someone whose voice makes everything inside you go still in a way that both comforts and terrifies you. That is what their silence sometimes holds. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Wa Allahu ya'lamu ma tukhfun. Allah knows what you conceal. And what a mercy that is, because there are feelings in this world that will never be spoken. There are truths that will live and die inside the hearts that carry them, never finding their way into words, never being heard by the person they were about. But they are not invisible to Allah. He sees them, He knows them, He holds them with more gentleness than any human being could offer. So when someone is silent around you in a way that feels heavy rather than empty, in a way that carries texture and weight rather than absence, do not rush to fill that silence with your worst interpretation. Do not be so quick to decide that quiet means nothing. Sometimes silence is the loudest thing a frightened heart can offer. And sometimes the most honest prayer a person makes is one that never reaches their lips, one that lives only in the ache of everything they could not bring themselves to say. You may never hear those words, but Allah already has, and He is already answering. They would rather lose themselves than risk losing you. This is the lesson that will break something open in you if you let it. Because we talk often about people who are selfish in their fear, people who protect themselves at the expense of others, people whose emotional walls exist to serve their own comfort, regardless of the cost to anyone else. But there is another kind of person, a person whose fear runs in the opposite direction entirely. These are the people who would rather erase themselves than risk being the reason you leave. They study you quietly, they learn what you like and adjust themselves toward it. They monitor your reactions to understand what makes you comfortable and what makes you pull away, and then they manage themselves accordingly, not out of deception, but out of a terror so deep it has become unconscious. The terror of being too much, of being not enough, of one day revealing who they actually are and watching your face change in a way they could not recover from. They chip away at themselves, piece by piece, offering you only the versions they believe you will accept, hiding the parts they have decided you will reject, and in doing so they carry an unbearable loneliness inside a connection they deeply want, because they are never fully seen. Because the person you care for is a curated version, and they know it, and it hollows them out. This is what the fear of losing you can do to a person. It can make them lose themselves first. In Islam we speak of the nafs, the self, the soul, and one of the greatest violations we can commit is the erasure of the self Allah created us to be, not out of arrogance, but out of honesty, out of the courage to say, "This is who I am, as Allah made me, with all of it, the beautiful and the broken, the strong and the struggling." The Prophet, peace be upon him, was described as the most honest of people, truthful to himself and to others, and the invitation of Islam is always toward that honesty, toward the authenticity that says, "I will not disappear to keep you. I will not shrink so small that there is nothing left of me to offer." If you recognize yourself in this lesson, hear this. The version of you that you are hiding is not the reason people will leave. It is the reason the right person will stay. And if you recognize someone else in it, someone who keeps making themselves smaller around you, understand what that is telling you about how much they value your presence. They are giving you something they have never given anyone. They are offering you their most vulnerable self while hiding it at the same time. And they are praying, somewhere beneath all of it, that you will see through the hiding, that you will love what you find when you do. Allah creates distance so the heart can finally see what it was too close to understand. There are things in this life you cannot see when you are too close to them. Stand next to a mountain and you cannot see the mountain. You see only rock and ground and the immediate few feet in front of you, but step back far enough and the whole shape reveals itself. The height becomes visible, the beauty becomes clear. The magnitude of what you were standing beside becomes something you can finally understand. Hearts work the same way. When two people are in regular proximity, when they are close and present and part of each other's ordinary days, there is a kind of blindness that proximity creates. Not a malicious blindness, just the blindness of familiarity. The way you stop seeing the details of a room you walk through every day. The way you stop noticing things that have become background. And sometimes, into this comfortable proximity, Allah introduces distance, not always through choice, not always through conflict, sometimes simply through circumstances, a change in life, a period of separation, a season where two people who were close are suddenly no longer in the same rhythm, no longer in easy contact, no longer simply there for each other without effort. And in that distance, something happens that closeness never allowed. The heart wakes up. The person who never thought clearly about what you meant to them suddenly cannot stop thinking about it. The one who took the texture of your presence for granted suddenly feels the specific shape of your absence. Things they never said because they assumed there was always more time begin to press against the inside of their chest with an urgency they did not expect. Distance clarifies. Absence reveals. Separation has a way of stripping away everything that was casual and comfortable and leaving only what is real. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used this pattern throughout the Quran and in the stories of the prophets. Separation was not punishment alone. It was preparation. It was the sharpening of appreciation. It was the creation of longing that made reunion not just pleasant but transformative. Yusuf alayhi salam was separated from his father by years of distance and grief and silence, and when they finally came together again, the reunion was not just emotional, it was the fulfillment of a dream. It was the completion of a divine plan that could only have unfolded through the distance it required. So if you are in a season of distance right now, if something has opened up between you and someone you care about, do not immediately read it as an ending. Ask yourself instead, what Allah may be clarifying through it. What is this distance revealing that closeness was concealing? And know that sometimes the most important thing a separation does is not push two people apart. It is make them see for the very first time with complete clarity that they do not want to be apart at all. Some of the deepest lovers in this world die without ever saying a single word. This lesson is perhaps the most painful one we will sit with today, because it is about all the things that were never said. There are people walking this earth right now who love with a depth that would undo you if you could see it, who carry feelings for someone that are woven into every part of their daily life, who make dua for someone they have never told, who think of someone every time they hear a particular sound, or see a particular color, or experience a particular kind of quiet evening, and they will never say a word about it. Not because the feeling is not real, not because the person does not deserve to hear it, but because something in them, some wound that was there long before you arrived, makes the act of speaking love feel more dangerous than the act of carrying it silently forever. Some of these people were told as children that their feelings were too much, that their emotions were inconvenient, that love expressed openly made others uncomfortable, made them vulnerable, made them targets for the kind of pain that comes from loving someone who does not love you back. And so they learned to love in silence, to give without announcement, to be present without declaration, to pour themselves out in ways that could always be explained as something other than what they actually were. This is one of the great tragedies of the human experience. Not hatred, not cruelty, but love that never found its voice. Connection that existed in full on one side and was never transmitted. The Prophet, peace be upon him, gave us a practice to protect against this. He told us to tell someone when we love them, to say the words, to make the feeling real through language, because he understood that unexpressed love is a kind of spiritual suffocation, that the heart was not built to hold everything silently, that what lives inside us was given to us not only to feel, but to offer. But the practice requires courage, and courage is not equally distributed. Some people have been through things that make vulnerability feel like standing in the open with no shelter, and they protect themselves the only way they know. If you think about someone right now who has loved you without ever saying so, who has been present in ways that could have been love, but could always be explained otherwise, honor that. Honor the weight they carried, honor the feeling they could not speak. And if you are the one who has been loving in silence, hear this. The feeling you are holding deserves to be heard, not by everyone, not recklessly, but by the right person, in the right moment, with whatever small courage you can gather. Because silence is not always protection. Sometimes it is the very thing that keeps what is written for you from finding you. When the fear of losing you becomes bigger than their ability to stay, they break into two people. This lesson is for everyone who has experienced someone who felt like two different people depending on the day. Warm and then cold, present and then absent, open and then sealed shut without explanation. You have seen both versions and you cannot reconcile them. You do not know which one is real. You do not know which one to respond to. And the uncertainty is slowly doing something to your own sense of stability. Here is what is actually happening inside that person. There are two forces living in them simultaneously. The force of genuine feeling, which pulls them toward you, and the force of genuine fear, which pushes them away from you. And these two forces are not taking turns. They are both present at the same time. They are both real at the same time. And the person between them is being pulled in opposite directions with no clear resolution. When the feeling wins, you get the warm version, the present one, the one who reaches out first, who lingers in conversation, who looks at you in a way that says something they have not yet decided to say out loud. When the fear wins, you get the other one, the one who withdraws, who gives short answers, who creates space between you that feels deliberate and cold, but is actually just the fear having taken temporary control of the steering. Neither version is a lie. Both of them are that person, and that person has not yet done the internal work to bring these two parts of themselves into alignment. This is exhausting to witness, and it is even more exhausting to experience from the inside, because they are not performing inconsistency for you. They are genuinely living inside it, genuinely unable to choose one direction and stay there. In Islam, we are encouraged toward clarity in all things. The Quran repeatedly calls believers toward sidq, truthfulness, toward making the internal and the external match. Allah does not love what is divided, He loves what is whole. And the invitation of the faith is always toward a wholeness that can only come when we bring our fears before Him and ask Him to help us choose the direction He has ordained for us. But that work belongs to them, not to you. You can have compassion for someone who is broken into two by their fear. You can understand the mechanism of it. You can hold space for the reality that they are struggling, but you cannot put them back together. You cannot love them into consistency. You cannot wait indefinitely on the shore while someone else decides whether they are willing to choose the direction that brings them toward you. Your peace has a value that does not diminish in the face of someone else's unresolved fear. And if the confusion never resolves, if the oscillation never stabilizes, then perhaps what Allah is showing you through their inconsistency is not a test of your patience, but a direction for your life. Not every connection is meant to become a foundation. Some are meant to teach you what you deserve, and what you deserve is someone who does not break into pieces trying to decide if you are worth staying for. The one who is truly afraid to lose you will reveal themselves through what they cannot hide. By now we have talked about silence, about distance, about walls and fear and the heart that runs from what it wants most. But there is something we have not yet spoken about, and it is perhaps the most important thing of all. Fear is not a perfect concealer. People can hide their feelings with words. They can control what they say and what they do not say. They can manage their expressions and regulate their behavior and build walls with remarkable precision. But the heart leaks. It always leaks. Through the things that slip out before the guard goes up. Through the moments of unguarded honesty that appear and disappear faster than the person intended. Through the way they react to your pain. Through the way they cannot quite look away when you are not looking. Through the way their voice changes in a register so subtle that only someone paying close attention would even notice. The one who is truly afraid to lose you cannot hide it completely, because the fear of losing you is not a thought. It is not a decision. It is a physical, emotional, spiritual reality that lives in them and makes itself known even when they are doing everything possible to suppress it. They notice things about you that they have no reasonable explanation for noticing. They remember details you mentioned once and never repeated. They react to your happiness with something that looks very much like relief. They react to your pain with something that looks very much like it is happening to them too. These are not the behaviors of someone who is indifferent. These are not the behaviors of someone who has managed to protect themselves so completely that you mean nothing. These are the behaviors of a heart that is fully engaged and desperately pretending it is not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He is aware of the treachery of the eyes and what the breasts conceal. The treachery of the eyes, the things the eyes give away before the rest of the person is ready. Allah watches the moments of accidental honesty that the person themselves may not even notice. The split second of longing before the wall goes back up. The involuntary softness that appears when your name is mentioned and disappears before anyone can point to it. You do not always need someone to say the words to know what is true. Sometimes you need only to pay attention to what they cannot stop their heart from showing. This does not mean you should wait indefinitely for someone who will never speak. Clarity matters. Honesty matters. A connection that can only live in the secret language of unspoken things is a connection that cannot grow into what it is meant to be, but it means that in the space before clarity arrives, you are not as alone in the uncertainty as you feel, because the truth is already there, written on their face in unguarded moments, alive in the texture of their attention, present in every small thing they do that has no explanation except the real one. Allah created the heart to reveal what the mouth conceals, and He did not do that by accident. What Allah has written for you will find you even if every door between you has been closed. We arrive now at the lesson that holds every other lesson inside it, the one that was always the destination of this entire journey. After all of it, after the fear and the silence and the distance and the mixed signals and the broken into two people and the love that never found its voice and the eyes that gave away what the heart refused to admit, after all of it, there is this. What Allah has written for you will find you. Not maybe, not if conditions are right, not if the other person finds their courage in time, not if the circumstances align in the particular way you have been hoping for. It will find you. This is qadar, not a concept for the passive, not a teaching that asks you to do nothing and expect everything, but a truth so deep and so settled that it can become the foundation beneath every other truth in your life, the ground that does not shift, the certainty that does not depend on anyone else's readiness or courage or honesty. What is written will reach you, and what is not written for you cannot be held onto, no matter how tightly you grip, no matter how much you want it, no matter how much you have built your hope around it. If it is not yours, it will pass through your hands like water, and that is not cruelty, that is mercy, because Allah does not withhold from His servant what is good for them. He only redirects what would harm them, even when it feels like good. The Quran tells us that perhaps you dislike something and it is good for you, and perhaps you love something and it is bad for you. Allah knows and you do not know. This verse is not cold, it is not dismissive. It is Allah speaking to the heart that is hurting and saying, I see what you want. I know why you want it. And I know something about this situation that you cannot see from where you are standing. Trust me, not because the pain is not real, not because the longing is not legitimate, but because the one asking for your trust is the one who created the heart that is longing, the one who knows its every room and corridor and hiding place, the one who designed the very connection you are afraid of losing, and who therefore knows exactly what it is, what it means, and what it is becoming. If someone is written for you, truly written for you, no fear will permanently keep them away, no silence will last forever between you, no distance is too far for Allah to close when the time is appointed, and if they are not written for you, then the grace in letting go is not abandonment. It is the opening of a path towards something your current vision cannot yet see. Make dua. Ask Allah to bring to you what He has written for you and to remove what He has not, gently, with mercy, with dignity intact. Ask Him to settle what is unsettled in you. Ask Him to take the fear that lives in the other person's heart and replace it with the courage to move in whatever direction He has ordained. And then, and this is the hardest part, release the grip, not out of indifference, not out of giving up, but out of the deepest kind of trust. The trust that says, Ya Allah, you have handled this entire universe since before I existed. You have written every destiny with perfect knowledge and perfect love. You have never made a mistake. You have never forgotten a single heart that turned to you. So I leave this in your hands, because your hands are where it was always going to end up anyway. May Allah protect your heart from the confusion that wears the face of love. May He give you eyes to see what is hidden in the hearts of those around you, and wisdom to know what to do with what you see. May He soften every heart that is hardened by fear. May He loosen every silence that is holding back something true. May He give courage to everyone who has been loving quietly for too long. May He bring close what is written for you in a way that carries peace rather than chaos, clarity rather than confusion, dignity rather than desperation. May He never allow you to beg for what was always meant to be freely given. May He never allow your worth to become something you feel you have to prove. And if two hearts are written for each other in the preserved tablet, may Allah bring them together through what is halal, through what is honest, through what He has blessed. For He is Al-Wadud, the most loving, Al-Latif, the most subtle, Al-Khabir, the most aware. He knows what every heart conceals, and He has never, not once, abandoned a heart that trusted Him. Ameen, Ameen, Ameen.